Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion as part of National Poetry Month. 30 poetry discussions in 30 days as we are nearing the end of the line for this National Poetry Month. But fret not, there will still be poetry discussions every Monday here on the channel. And hey, look, guys, I am 42 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers on my personal channel, a link to which can be found in the description below. If you love me, and I know that you do, consider going over there. I am nearing the conclusion of an essay. So over on my personal channel, I talk about philosophy, I do movie reviews, I do things like that. I am approaching the end of an essay that has given me quite some trouble. An essay called We Must Imagine Sisyphus. We must imagine Sisyphus. That's not how the saying goes. The saying is, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Well, I disagree slightly. And the reason why is in that essay. The video should be done in the next few days. I aim for one upload per week there, but I'm struggling right now as this is the midst of National Poetry Month. So uh, I guess I beg your pardon. Cut me some slack, man. We're here to discuss The Garden of Love by William Blake. The poem itself reads as such. Let me get to my document here. The Garden of Love. I went to the Garden of Love and saw what I had never what I'm struggling today. The Garden of Love. I went to the Garden of Love and saw what I never had seen. A chapel was built in the midst where I used to play on the green. And the gates of this chapel were shut, and thou shalt not writ over the door. So I turned to the Garden of Love that so many sweet flowers bore, and I saw it was filled with graves and tombstones where flowers should be. And priests in black gowns were walking their rounds and binding the briars, my joy and desires. So, what are we talking about here? What is this poem from William Blake? William Blake, the hellfire and brimstone fella, talking about the Garden of Love. Reminds me of that Peter Gabriel song, Love Town. And do those teeth still match the wound? Take a good look around. Love Town. Great song. Peter Gabriel, very underrated. Probably the exact opposite of William Blake. Though I don't think they are from two. Nah, never mind. Usually, this poem is read as our speaker rebelling against organized religion. And fair enough. I mean, it makes sense. You go to the Garden of Love, used to be free love, used to be this open and um, maybe whimsical place, the Garden of Love. And now, all of a sudden, there's this big building and there's gates. Everything is gated off. And where the flowers had been, there is only the dead. Okay, yeah, I get it. But since those interpretations are already out there, I'll let them speak for themselves, and we here will take it a bit of a different direction. A slight deviation. This poem is written about the church, perhaps. The church, right? The institution. The church had become so powerful that no other power could be, right? That's sort of what's going on here. The church had popped up, organized religion popped up and dictated what was to be, what was not to be. Thou shalt not. Ironically, with the essay that I pitched at the beginning of this video, thou shalt not, there's some good writings from Nietzsche. Nietzsche. on thou shalt not. But thou shalt not, thou shalt not. This is a poem in rebellion against, perhaps, organized religion, the church, which was the institution. I don't think in today's world we have to be so pinpoint, however. The institution, instead of perhaps singular, has become myriad, has become multiple, but it still operates just the same. Think of whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you love. For me, it's writing, it's literature. So I'm going to make the point in this domain. Probably you enjoy literature as well. Who was the most recent great poet you've read? Who? Who was it? And I mean great. I mean that you look at these poems and you think, whoa, yeah, man, I see the human experience in these lines. Even the line breaks, baby. Yeah, it makes me feel human. Makes me feel like me in contrast to you. Who was the last great poet? For me, the answer is Bukowski. Bukowski died 30 years ago. And I say, no, now, admittedly, I have not searched as probably thoroughly as should I have. I've read a lot of stuff. So I read, oh man, I'm going to see if I can do this justice live. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. When I was in graduate school, yes, Tracy K. Smith. I read the so Tracy K. Smith became poet laureate, became um, poet laureate of the United States from 2017 to 2019. I read in graduate school, I believe, the collection by which Tracy Smith became ascended to that sort of level of poet. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Really enjoyed it. I would not say it was transcendent. Really good stuff. Don't get me wrong. I would not say there was a single poem in that collection. I think it was named something about outer space or something. I would not say there was a single poem in there that was transcendent. That not only could I see me in, but I could understand everyone seeing themselves in. And that is what makes great poetry. For me, the last great poet was Charles Bukowski. But I say that with my tongue planted firmly in my cheek because Bukowski is the last great poet, by my understanding, that we've heard about. What do I mean? The gatekeepers that are the power wielders that be have probably snuffed out a great many voices that were to transcend what it was to which they have been relegated. So, no, the church is maybe not the institution that once it was, but in this quest for the destruction of institution, in this quest for the destruction of centralized power, and I agree with that. I agree with the destruction of centralized power because centralized power can never be true or just or balanced. It just can't. In, however, the destruction of that centralized power, the institution, the church, other turrets of power have risen. And it seems they always will. It seems to be the true democratization of what it is that we consume can never be fully transparent, can never be fully level, can never be fully equal, can never be fully by the people. This is the same argument that is used against communism. Well, true communism has never been tried. It can't be. True communism leads to a power grab by a different name. That is all. True destruction of the centralization of power, true destruction of the institution, true destruction of the church led to power grabs in different institutions. Predominantly, one thing which had been sort of mainly and almost exclusively meritocratic, the universities have fallen. And I say that with no great joy. They've fallen predominantly because of my field of study, English literature. Why? Because people created this power vacuum and then said, well, yeah, now let me fix it. Let me wield the power for now. So what are we railing against here? We're railing against the institution. We're railing against the centralization of power. We're railing against the church, the church. But I could do the same thing with editors today. I could do the same thing with the gatekeepers of the English language. I could do the same thing with the sort of anyone who has declared themselves authoritative in publishing. They have just remade the image of people to the image of themselves, right? Does that make sense? So here we have this railing against the centralization of powers by William Blake. Unbeknownst to him, that power would fall and small powers would rise. What a predicament. So as we look around, for me, what had been, I don't know, maybe my graduate school experience with literature, looking around what it was to be those fruitful days where I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. I go back to that garden of love, that act of writing, and the flowers have been replaced with tombstones because the powers that be, the institution that wields the power today, is corrupt. Surely this is the case for something that you love as well. Is that what makes this poem transcendent? That this is true today, that this is true in any field that you wish to look at, that this is true forever. It will be true forever. Maybe that is what makes this poem, ironically, great. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you enjoy what I do here, hitting the like button lets YouTube know to share this video with other literature lovers. All I talk about on this channel is literature, poetry, short stories, novels. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more. And just know that there are more poetry discussions to be had in the future. And I hope to have you back for every one of them.